Nickelodeon! Over the past 2.5 years, I have watched so much Nickelodeon. Like, an unreasonable amount of Nickelodeon. 50 shows, to be exact, because, this is going to be a 5-part series. Every part, I cover 10 shows. I'm going to rank and review all of them. The point is, I have watched so much Nickelodeon over the past 2.5 years. So much that I pretty much, while watching, knew I was going to have to make some sort of really big video of me covering all of the shows that I watched and ranking and reviewing all of them, because otherwise it would have felt like I was really wasting my time, which, let's be honest, for the payout of how many people are going to watch this, it probably is still going to be seen as a waste of time.
Well, thanks for wasting my time tonight, idiot.
If I can at least say that I've made this, then it will feel as though all of that watching was made towards something. In this video, part 1 of 5, I am going to cover 10 Nickelodeon shows that I have watched over the past 2.5 years. It didn't necessarily take me 2.5 years to watch these 10 shows specifically. In fact, if it was just these 10, this video would have been from starting to ending, watching, doing everything. This would have been much faster, but 50 shows I'm covering here. I'm covering 50. This is just part 1. How I'm going to do it is I will first cover 5 shows. Then right in the middle, I'm going to have a nice little intermission, nice little, side topic that I want to talk about with all of these Nickelodeon shows. And then I'm going to finish with the last 5 shows. And these shows, part by part, episode by episode, whatever it is you want to say, I'm going to cover them chronologically. So these first 10 shows, it's going to be their earlier stuff. I'm talking early 90s, baby. So I'm sure all the 90s kids out there will probably like this video the best, because early 90s stuff. I have watched all the available episodes that were given to me, whether it was through Paramount Plus, which is about 90% of what I use to watch all of these episodes, or YouTube, or the Internet Archive. I just had to find a way to make sure the specific show I was covering, I was able to get 2/3 worth of that show, because I believe that watching at least 2/3 of the show spread across what it is that, was being done start to end, I was at the very least able to get a pretty good idea of the show I was watching, and there wasn't too much that I was missing. If every single episode was available to me, I would watch every single episode, but if I only had a certain amount of episodes that were available to me, then that's all I'd be able to watch, is those episodes. So don't go calling me a mysterious Mr. Enter, because I didn't just watch 2 episodes of these shows and then gave my entire opinion based on those 2 episodes. No, I'm actually watching the whole entire show that I'm going to be reviewing. At the end of every part, I will rank the 10 shows that I had covered within that specific part, and then I will just give you a quick little graphic of all 20, 30, 40, 50 of the shows and what the current rankings look like with everything combined. If there are any shows that I didn't cover that you wish for me to cover, you can put that in the comments. If I decide to make a part 6 to this of shows that I missed, but this is taking me 2.5, and probably by the time I'm done with part 5, it'll be close to 3 years, because there was so much I had to watch and so much I had to cover too. So I think that's all I needed to cover in this intro. I know it's a long intro, but this is going to be quite a series, and I really just wanted to make sure that I covered all of my bases before I can get into my reviews. Also, this entire part, I lost my audio for it because my microphone was acting up and it didn't get the sound recorded for it, which is infuriating because I had to re-record this entire intro part again from start to end. Point is, I need all this to go over smoothly, so I hope it does. The very first show I'm going to be covering is a little show I like to call Hey Dude. Hey Dude is a show about kids who work at a dude ranch, and they get into all types of mischief, trouble, they, butt heads with each other, and that's pretty much the basis of it. Even for a show aimed towards children, incredibly simplistic. Like, really, really simplistic to the point where I would call it boring. I really thought, I don't understand how kids could find this entertaining, and the thing is, The show's not necessarily meant for kids, but it's meant for toddlers. I did some research into this, and they said that they weren't necessarily aiming it towards average kids watching TV, but they're more so aiming it for the younger sibling that might be with the older sibling watching TV. That's why they made the show so simple and so easy to follow, and the dialogue is so straightforward. Granted, again, this is all children's TV, so I'm not expecting any of this to be like Breaking Bad levels of great or entertaining. Yeah, Hey Dude is just so boring. If I had to give the show some positives, I think it's really, really cool that they are filming on location at an actual dude ranch, and the dude ranch, even to this day, is abandoned. Like, you could go visit it, and all of the sets and everything, they're up, just, it's completely abandoned. I think that's really cool. Again, it's just boring. And really, unless there's stuff going on with Mr. Ernst, his wacky schemes, there's no reason to go back and watch this show. If you are somebody who thinks that this show holds up, or you're curious about it holding up, it is all on Paramount Plus. I would highly recommend maybe leaving that in the past. Or, if anything, show it to your kids, and you'll see the results that it'll probably get. I'm sure both the kids and you will more than likely be quite bored by the show. Great theme song, though. Absolutely fantastic theme song.
It's a little wild and a little strange when you make your home out on the range.
The peak of the show every time. You got the little, opening joke in the beginning, the thing that's sort of setting everything up. Then it goes right into that. Hey, dude. That was always the peak. So good. So nice. Just rewatch the theme song. That's all you need to do. Rewatch the opening and listen to the theme song. That's all you gotta do. Just that. Everything else, though, I wouldn't recommend. The next show I'm going to be covering is Clarissa Explains It All. Really quickly, if my audio sounds different, it's because I've been having problems with the microphone, and I had to rework a different wire. Like, this wire itself might not be working, so obviously this will all be cut out if it doesn't sound different in post, but if it does sound different in post, this wire was acting up, so I had to use a different one, and it sounds different, but it's still better than no microphone, so there's that. Clarissa Explains It All. The show stars Melissa Joan Hart as Clarissa Darling. She is a young girl, essentially growing up, trying to figure out the world around her. She has a younger brother, Fergface, as she likes to call him, her two parents, and essentially, she's just trying to figure out how to go through life. The plot is simple. The plot is almost so simple, it's hard for me to explain the plot and make it sound unique. It's much more kind of in the presentation of the show, and granted, yes, she is, like, the show itself does still have a sitcom style laugh track, all of that stuff, and, annoying younger brother, parents who don't always listen, best friend is Sam, and they're not actually interested in each other. They have no romantic relationship. They're just simply friends. Hi, Sam. Love that sound effect. I think what is unique about the show is more so how it kind of tells its story. There's a lot of fourth wall breaking. There's some Family Guy-esque cutaways where all of a sudden she'll just make everything like a noir. She'll go on her computer, that early 90s computer technology, that does really come into play. Point is, while the show itself, the actual premise might not necessarily be the most unique, how it's presented is pretty unique. The characters are all really good characters. They're fun, they're entertaining enough to get you through the 22 minutes. It's not a bad show. It really, really isn't. It's not necessarily one of my favorites that I've seen on the network, and this might be the time when 90s kids will come in and be like, oh, that's because you're nostalgic about the 2000s, and that's when you really care. This is much better if you look at it. But again, I've watched all of these shows. It's just kind of where I stand on Clarissa Explains It All. This was even one of the first shows I did watch because I knew that this was such an early Nickelodeon show that I thought, I gotta see what some of the early stuff is. Gotta know its humble beginnings. Gotta understand all of that. It was in the Nickelodeon documentary, so clearly I needed to know all of that stuff. Is this show worth a watch? I do believe it is worth a watch. I think it's worth checking out if you're at all interested about it. If you think it looks like a good show, if you want to revisit it, I'm sure you will really enjoy it. For me, it isn't one of my favorites, so don't expect this in the grand scheme of it all to be too high on the list. But I did like the show. I enjoyed it for what it was. I might rewatch it sometime in the future, but I don't see myself rewatching it too quickly. It is a good show. It's a nice kind of comfort show. It's something I would put on before I would go to bed and fall asleep to, because it is a very easy, light show to get through, and it's got some fun elements to it. So, good show. Jolly good show. Up next is Salute Your Shorts. This show takes place in the fictional summer camp of
Camp Wanna.
We hold you in our hearts.
I don't know why that's my immediate thing, even though, well, it's in the theme song. Another really good theme song. I'm getting to that, though. I'm getting to the theme songs, don't you worry. The show, essentially, it focuses on all the different campers, and they're getting into their different camp events, different camp mischiefs, all that stuff. All throughout the entire course of the show. One episode, they might be, running a fake business. Could be a fake newspaper thing, sports, all the camp stuff. It's essentially if Hey Dude was at a camp and the show and characters were just way more fun to be around, then you would get Salute Your Shorts. And I enjoyed Salute Your Shorts a lot more than I enjoyed Hey Dude. And I even thought that compared to Clarissa Explains It All, it was also about as enjoyable as that. The characters are fun. The setting is fun. I think my favorite character in the show might just be Ugg, simply because he's just the only adult and he always seems to get tricked by the kids, and he's like the antagonist against them. And I don't know, as somebody who was a substitute teacher for little kids, I felt I could relate a little bit to what it was he was doing and why he was so annoyed with them, and he was trying to put the authority down. But still, it was fun. It was good stuff right there. And yeah, I like this show. This was another really fun show. It's kind of upsetting that there's only 26 episodes of the show and only 10 of them are on Paramount Plus. But don't worry, I made sure to find a way to watch the other episodes to make sure I got the full picture. I'm not missing any episodes of this show. Salute Your Shorts holds up. You're gonna be very happy that it holds up. Again, not necessarily one of my favorites, but I did enjoy this show. The next show is the first Nicktoon that I'm going to cover, and that show is Doug. Doug is about the titular character Doug, as he writes in his journal about pretty much the problems he's going through with his day-to-day life. And, it's stuff that you would think a typical middle schooler is going through, and he even has his wild imagination. Sometimes he's a superhero, sometimes he's a secret agent, and it's all fun stuff. When I was a kid, I did not like Doug whatsoever. I thought the show was so boring and so useless. But as an adult, I love this show so much. There's just something about the fact that it is kind of so slow, and all of the voices are so calming. Other than Roger, I would say, and I guess Mr. Dink, everybody has just normal voices. So there is nothing in your face, and the animation style is so cool. Not cool, oh, it's so cool, but kind of cool, calming, and relaxing. If you're somebody who suffers from just having high anxiety and really high stress and you just need some way to chill out, I would highly recommend just put on Doug. This is a nice, relaxing show to put you just in such an easy mood. I was on TikTok for 45 minutes, and then I immediately put on Doug, and the amount of high energy, you can go through videos really quickly, you can do this, and that, bam, 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 and then you just go to Doug, and it's just I mean, that's the music in Doug. It's literally stuff like that. It's so calming, and and then it's yeah, it just put me in such a relaxing mood after so much just like TikTok like stuff going into my brain. Like, I needed something to calm me down, and Doug was the perfect take me down. Yeah, this is a good show. Again, it's in terms of its stories, you can essentially tell where every single beat is gonna go. It's as cliche as a cartoon about a kid in middle school can get. You know, it's all the stories that you've seen before. You pretty much know how the characters are immediately. But again, the fact that the animation and the voiceover work is just so nice, and it feels like such a breath of fresh air, to the fact that it's almost in a way how the Adult Swim show Joe Para Talks to You kind of is, because it's just so kind of slow and just calm and relaxing that I loved it. I can understand why a kid would not be in on this show. Heck, I could even see some adults watching the show and just being bored out of their minds. But for me, as somebody who actually appreciates the boringness and just the relaxation-civity of the show, I enjoyed this so much, and I really, really love this show. I do think I will rewatch the show and just put it on when I just need something just to put me in a good mood, because this is definitely a vibes type of show, without a doubt. It's for the vibes, man. I would highly recommend watching Doug, 100%. Up next, we have Rugrats, but only seasons 1 through 5. I know earlier I made a huge emphasis on I'm watching every episode of all of these shows, but there are a couple shows in here. I'm sure you can probably guess which shows they will be. Rugrats being one of them, where they have gone on for so long and they have so many episodes, you can kind of break down the shows by specific eras. And honestly, the Rugrats era before they got Dill, to me, that's just what everybody thinks when they think about Rugrats. Anything that happened, Dill, Kimmy, I'm not covering any of that in this series. Maybe that'll pop up later. Rugrats, we all know, it's babies getting into wacky adventures. Sometimes they're going through the real world, getting into trouble, but it's a bunch of babies. They somehow sneak away and get away with all of it. And other times, it's stuff that's in their imagination, in their head, and, you get to see what are these babies actually thinking? What's going on in their minds? The show might be overrated. I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate for, but here's the thing. Rugrats, from seasons 1 to about 3, really the first 3 seasons of Rugrats. Okay, hold on. I just looked it up now. Season 4, the first 2 episodes is the Rugrats Hanukkah special, and then the second episode is the Mother's Day special of Rugrats. So, scratch that. Rugrats from season 1 up until episode 2 of season 4 is really good. It is really, really good. And that is 2/3 of that show. And of that 2/3, I would say the bad stuff isn't too terrible. Like, I can almost kind of give it a pass for not being the most entertaining episode. It doesn't feel like it's going through the motions, and I'm not getting fed up with any of the babies' voices yet. If this show would have just been 67 episodes, it's without a doubt very high tier. Very, very high tier show. But when you have to watch 100 episodes and you just nonstop are hearing these voices that are babies and they're saying words wrong, and it gets really, really repetitive, and it gets a little less imaginative with every episode, and you really start to think, man, the show really seemed like it was something. It seemed fresh. It seemed like an original idea, and now it really feels like everybody who's coming up with stories is like, we gotta put them. They go to a football game and they accidentally stumble on the field, and none of the parents notice it until the very end. I don't know. I'm just pulling that example out of thin air. But the point is, it feels as though anybody can just write one of these episodes. It doesn't feel as special once you get to episode 70, episode 71. And to me, a show that has too many episodes isn't necessarily a bad thing if it feels as though there's still creative reasons behind having all of those episodes. But sadly, I did not think Rugrats needed all of those episodes. And I'm only covering the first 5 seasons. It almost sort of makes sense why they had to introduce Dill and eventually Kimmy. It kind of does make sense because you can tell by the end of their peak, they're running out of ideas. So why not throw in a baby who's younger than the babies and can't really communicate with the other babies so well, which still kind of breaks my mind and the whole point of the show and what it's supposed to be, kinda. The first 2/3, it is very good, and I can give it a pass when there's a bad episode in there or just an episode that I was kind of like, ugh. That last third, you just feel it kind of dragging on, and I really felt like I was just trying to power through to get to the end when I was watching the show. Again, not necessarily a bad show. If you want to watch it, I'd dive on in. I just don't think if I decide to rewatch the show, I'm without a doubt picking and choosing episodes. I am not going to go and watch all 100 episodes again. Like, I'm going to be like, this episode sounds like a skip. I'm going to fast forward on it. Like, I just have to. And I understand that this show, too, was huge for Nickelodeon. It was its first big, massive hit. It was SpongeBob before SpongeBob. I am more than willing to give it the credit on pop culture and what it did for the network and even animation in general. I am more than willing to give it all that credit. Without the show, Nickelodeon might itself be a whole different entity. Without a doubt.
And now for something completely different.
Theme songs. I'll be honest. They are, like, I don't know who it is that's in charge of approving theme songs at Nickelodeon, but big thumbs up. Even the shows I don't like Hey Dude, I still will more than admit the theme song is straight fire. Yeah, you know what? It's catchy enough. It captures the tone of the show. I would, weirdly enough, listen to this if it was on a Spotify playlist, but that last part could just be because I'm kind of a weirdo with this stuff. I don't know what it is with these theme songs. I really like the Salute Your Shorts theme song. I really like the Clarissa theme song, Doug, Ren and Stimpy, Rugrats. If you're somebody who's like, oh, what's your favorite Nickelodeon theme song? I might just ask back, what's your favorite Nickelodeon theme song? And if they ask me, I asked you first, I'll probably just go with the default, like, easy one to go with and just say SpongeBob. Because that is just, to me, SpongeBob, again, great theme song. No disrespect to any theme songs. I don't want anybody to think I'm disrespecting any theme songs whatsoever. I'm just using SpongeBob as an easy example, which, spoiler alert, yeah, I'm going to review SpongeBob. The SpongeBob theme song, it's just kind of the easy grab and be like, oh, it's the most famous theme song, everybody knows the lyrics to it, it actually can get you hyped up. So, I mean, it is kind of an easy answer to say that that is the best theme song. Then you even have to think of shows like, I don't know, iCarly and Victorious, all that, The Amanda Show, Drake and Josh, because let me tell you, Zoe 101, the live action shows, those theme songs are also fantastic. I really don't know how Nickelodeon, they might not necessarily have the best track record when it comes to actual shows, you know, taking care of their actors, especially their child actors. But if there's one thing you can absolutely count on with Nickelodeon, it's that their theme songs are gonna be rockin'. And they're gonna be something that I'm gonna wanna listen to when I'm driving on a long car ride. Now, you could also make the argument of, Sam, you watched every single episode of all of these shows. So are you just weirdly enough feeling nostalgic for these shows, even the ones you don't like, but just hearing that theme song and getting in the mood every single time? And that's a good argument. It's a very good argument that, because I just never would skip any of the intros whatsoever. But I also kind of liked not skipping the intros, because again, even if it was a show like Hey Dude, the theme song still was so good, and it got me in such a high mood, even though I knew the show or the episode I was about to watch probably wasn't going to live up to the theme song expectations. So that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about in this first little side tangent transition break from just TV shows. I guess this is where it'll be. I need a whiteboard or something, at least, because I don't think just my doorknob is gonna do the trick. Also, the lighting is a bit wacky, but, you know, as time moves on, I'll figure something out. The Ren and Stimpy Show. If you didn't like my opinion on Rugrats, I don't think my opinion on Ren and Stimpy is going to help, because I really did not like this show that much. To me, there were some, keyword some, episodes that I thought were funny and worth a watch. I don't find Ren or Stimpy very enjoyable. The shenanigans that they get into can sometimes be kind of fun, but most of the time, I was really kind of just thinking like, okay, come on, how much longer is in this? I'm checking to see, and yeah, this show just, I think it's just a show that's not for me. I'm not one that's huge with like gross out humor, really. Once again, I see the influence. Much like with Rugrats, I fully agree that without this show, Nickelodeon and animation just in general would not be the same if it wasn't for the existence of this show. I fully agree that it is incredibly important to animation because of the influences that it ended up having on both the decade and just the art form and medium as a whole. I will more than acknowledge that, which is a big reason why I don't want to put it very close to the bottom. I just didn't have that much fun with watching the show. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but this was it's just not for me, dog. That's all I can say. Are You Afraid of the Dark? This is an anthology show where every single episode, a new kid from the Midnight Society Club is telling a new horror story based around essentially other types of fairy tales and myths that have been used in the past. One of them's based on the monkey's paw. I can't think of what the other ones are off the top of my head. Point is, they are based on other stories and, you know, stuff to make it horror for children. I'm not really a fan of horror. I don't really like the genre very much. That's just me. This show, I actually did find it very enjoyable. I think it now has to go in my permanent October lineup to get ready for the Halloween season. There is a good amount of good episodes in this. Granted, not every episode is a winner. There are some duds in there. You're able to get in and out within the 22-minute time span. Nothing is too cringy or too terrible. The acting's not that bad. And yeah, it just, you know, nice little spooky story. And for someone like me, who probably has the same horror level and easily frightenedness of what would be a child, this kind of has just the right down the path line for me, where I don't want something that's super scary and is really gonna mess with my mind, but, you know, just something to put me in a little bit of a like that's kind of freaky, or I don't know about that one. Something to put me in that mindset. That's kind of like right down the path that this show was able to give me. And again, there's a good number of enjoyable episodes from what I was able to see on Paramount Plus of this show. Only the first 5 seasons, I think, were on there. So do with that as you may. I know this show has like 6, 7. They did a revival, and then apparently a few years back they tried to do another revival. I did not see any of that. I only stuck to the original series on this. And again, this is something that every October I feel like I'll probably put an episode on. And if I ever see it on Paramount Plus, I'll probably be like, I'll wait till October to get back to that and watch some more episodes. Yeah, good show. Would definitely recommend. This one holds up. And yeah, you know, give it a try. Why not? The Adventures of Pete and Pete. This is a show where essentially Big Pete is telling you a story of what happened recently, and everything he tells you, no matter how over-exaggerated it might seem, actually happened. And what do I mean by that? You'd have to watch to find out. The show is so weird and so bizarre. Not in a Ren and Stimpy way, in more of a kind of just like, wait, did that actually really happen type of way? The more I watch it, the more I was getting into it. The whole thing, again, feels like it's a kid telling you a story from his perspective, all hyperboles and all. And that's the fun of it. It really does make you see stuff from the kid's point of view. Even though the villains, the antagonists, they are essentially just normal people who seem a little too antagonistic towards the kids, but that's how the kids see it from their perspective. And you might also think, why is there Artie, the strongest man in the world, just hanging out with Little Pete. But that's the thing. He is hanging out with Little Pete because that's just how the show goes. Everything that happens within the show, the tone of it makes it work so perfectly that all the stories that are going on, you're just there going with the flow. You're having a good time with it. You need to see what's going to happen next. You want to see if they're going to defeat the evil snowplow guy. You need to keep seeing how everything is going to unfold. While this was the first time I had watched the show ever, it is a show that I want to go back and revisit. And I feel as though the more I go back and revisit and rewatch the show, it is only going to go higher and higher in my mind and in my personal rankings. Right now, it sits where it sits at off of the one watching and the couple episodes I had to rewatch to keep my mind fresh. This seems like a show that the more you watch, the more I'm just going to enjoy it and be entertained by just the silliness of what's going on and how fun it all is. And it even makes you as a viewer feel like a kid watching the show because the show is perfectly from the perspective of a kid. And I really enjoyed the adventure that this show took me on. Every episode is on YouTube for now. I really hope it doesn't get taken down. I really, really do not want it to get taken down. It should stay up. It should stay up forever, and everybody should watch it. I would definitely recommend this show. This is another really fun show where I enjoyed what was going on and the stories that were taking place and the characters and seeing them grow. They kind of grow from episode to episode and season by season. It might only have been just a little bit, but again, I feel like with rewatching it, I'm probably going to see the progress and the change happen. Adventures of Pete and Pete, good show. Really a very good show. I can see why some people call this one of, if not the greatest children's show of all time. It really was that good. You should definitely check it out if you've not seen it, or if you want to rewatch it, you should definitely give it a rewatch. Rocko's Modern Life. It's about a wallaby named Rocko going through, his modern day life and kind of all the people he encounters and his friends, the situations they get in, cartoon stuff, shenanigans, as they like to say. Very funny show. There's a lot of secret, it's probably not even a secret at this point because the show was in the 90s. It has good adult humor in it that goes over kids' heads. Steven Hillenburg, he worked on the show, and you definitely see the through lines of SpongeBob-iness in this show. So there is that. Again, a lot of fun characters, a lot of good wackiness. It's like if you took Ren and Stimpy, you made the setting more consistent within the town of O-Town. You made it feel more grounded in reality. Even though the show itself is still pretty surreal, like there's talking toads and cows and whatnot, more grounded in the sense of like, it's not anything like it doesn't feel like they're just throwing everything at the wall. It feels like the writers of the show actually had somewhat of an idea of what they want to do with their stories and their episodes and the characters, as opposed to just, let's just put them in space and what's going to happen in space. Some people like that stuff on Ren and Stimpy. Again, I understand the influence that show had, but I just think Rocko's Modern Life is so much better. Easily much better. And I'm not even entirely sure why I feel the need to compare Rocko's Modern Life and Ren and Stimpy, other than I know both shows had somewhat of an influence on SpongeBob, but I feel like Ren and Stimpy almost gets held up in higher regards as opposed to Rocko's Modern Life, but I know Rocko's Modern Life, it is the better show. Now, I'm not going to talk about Static Cling because it wasn't as good as I hoped it would be, but it wasn't terrible. It was just okay. Really like Rocko's Modern Life, though. That's the whole point, though. I'm trying to focus mainly on the show. Rocko's Modern Life, very funny show, very good show. This is one I will definitely rewatch in the future. Yeah, Rocko's Modern Life, good show. You know it. I know it. We all know it. All that. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Sam, you're only talking about just the 90s, all that, because as you said earlier, there are some shows where you can separate their different eras, and all that is perfect for its 90s, 2000s, and even 2020 era. Well, You would be right. You really, really would be right. And I actually did anticipate myself doing that exactly, of I'm going to cover 90s, 2000s, and 2020 just specifically to see how the different eras stack up against each other. The thing is, though, they're all the exact same quality. The 90s is not better than the most recent. The most recent is not better than the 2000s, and the 2000s is not better than either. They're all the exact same. But that should be a good thing, right? Because all that's a great show. Well, much like Saturday Night Live, no, not everything holds up. In fact, I would say more often than not, stuff does not hold up. Two specific things, oh boy, I'm gonna get so much hate for this, but two specific things that I know from the 90s that does not hold up, that seem to be in every episode, if not every other episode, is Loud Librarian and Kel from Good Burger. I'm telling you, just these were characters that every time they would come on my screen, I would be like, I might as well skip over. Like, it's not growing on me. I gave them chances. I really did. I gave those characters and those sketches that I was not a fan of chances. And then once I was done with the 90s, all that, I then decided to look for and find the 2000s, all that. And that is the era I grew up with. But you know, it's still not that good. It's still about the same quality. It's very, very hit or miss, and more often than not, misses. And then I thought, okay, this 2021 is probably going to be very crappy because more often than not, these types of revival things, still not that good. And I thought it was as good as the 90s and the 2000s. So ultimately, all that, if you think one era is better than the other, it probably is just your childhood. Now, I'll give you with the 90s, yes, you have Kenan Thompson and Amanda Bynes. Fantastic comedic talents right there. Like, I can give you that. I will more than give you that on all of that stuff. I just think the sketches themselves and the comedy, it's still not anything that good. It is sketch comedy for kids, so it really can only be so good within itself. And it shouldn't come to any surprise that I don't think a lot of it is very funny as an adult. If you're a kid, you probably like it. I did like Detective Dan. Detective Dan was consistently funny. Yeah, all that, again, it doesn't hold up. It really doesn't. It's not very good. It's not very funny. Just, if you think it is, it without a doubt is your nostalgia glasses lying to you, because try watching all that on Paramount Plus. It's gonna be much more difficult than you're expecting it to be. Believe me, it really is. Rankings time! Alright, here we go. Here are the 10 shows I'm ranking from worst to best. Number 10, Hey Dude. Number 9, Ren and Stimpy. Number 8, All That, the entire franchise. Number 7, Rugrats, but only seasons 1 through 5. Number 6, Clarissa Explains It All. Number 5, Salute Your Shorts. Number 4, Are You Afraid of the Dark? Number 3, The Adventures of Pete and Pete. Number 2, Rocco's Modern Life. And number 1, Doug. Now, I would say Hey Dude is the only show, don't even give it a try. I don't think that one's gonna hold up whatsoever. Ren and Stimpy, All That, and Rugrats, I would say if you want to give it a try, you absolutely should. But if you don't, you're not missing much. Even though I did not like Ren and Stimpy, the fact that it had such a big influence on animation and Nickelodeon, I more than think if you want to at least see it on that perspective of how it was as an influence, you absolutely should. Clarissa Explains It All and Salute Your Shorts, I would say that's in the tier of these are pretty good shows that are worth a watch. But then Are You Afraid of the Dark, The Adventures of Pete and Pete, Rocco's Modern Life, and Doug, those are easy Hall of Famers right there. Like, these are shows I plan on rewatching in the future, near future even possibly, once I get through a few other shows that I have to watch. And even that top 4, I could understand that being in any order. Even if you had it as 4 to 1, being Doug, Rocco, Pete and Pete, Are You Afraid of the Dark? I could understand that too, because those 4 shows are all very close and very good in quality. I just prefer Doug, I think, the most because it's so calming and so relaxing. But I was even struggling with thinking, Do I want to put Rocco ahead of Pete and Pete, or do I want to put Pete and Pete ahead of Rocco? Like, those two are, they've got to be neck and neck with each other. And they might even change as the rankings go forward. You just got to keep watching part by part. For all we know, these rankings could flip by the end of part 5. So you got to keep up. Thank you for watching. This is something that has taken a lot of my time, both watching and even filming wise. Filming tonight specifically because my microphone broke, so I apologize for the poor quality, but I don't think I'm going to be able to start filming the next part until maybe November, because my entire October is just going to be all booked up. I don't know when part 2 is going to be coming out. There's even a show within part 2 I do need to finish watching, and I'm almost halfway done with that show. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I do need to get through that show also, but I think by the time this video is released, I'll probably be at least done with, or close to done with, the next season I will have to watch, I think. So, you know, like, subscribe, leave a comment for any shows you do want to see me watch and review next, or any shows that I might have missed that were within this Hey Dude to all that time span, because maybe I can review that in a part 6. If this gets more views than it probably will, but probably won't. Yeah, thanks for watching. See you in part 2.